Technology.
What?
Technology.
Technology and the Return to Eden. The title is interesting in and of itself. The end. Astrophysicists say how they can now finally tell us how the universe will expire, and it's not with a bang. Right? It's how the universe will end by Michael Lemonick, Time Magazine, 2001, and then another article by another guy, how to survive the end of the universe in 7 steps, adapted from a book, Parallel World, A Journey to Creation, Higher Dimensions, and the Future of the Cosmos, by Michio Kaku, the Japanese scientist. And basically I show here that it's so funny, not funny, they get almost a glee out of saying that the universe is going to get really hot, and then it's going to get really cold, and it's going to become nothing. It's millions of years away. It doesn't matter. They're already forecasting because they know. So they don't have a spiritual framework within which to function. So therefore, for nothingness for them means absolute nothingness. But we have a concept of an infinite one. I don't want to call him an infinite being. He is being. He isn't a being. He is being. God is being. For me, at least, the best way to see it doesn't limit it as much. And we come from an infiniteness, and we're going back to infiniteness. And sometimes I point there and point there, but it's not there or there. It's everywhere. We come from infiniteness, and we came down into a world where infiniteness is hidden in order to have individual finite existence, finite consciousness, separate bodies. And it's wonderful. And Judaism is extremely positive about that we have a body, and this body is a temple, and our job is to elevate and refine and enjoy and do good things. And that if we do that, then we move into eternity. And of course, daddies and mommies and teachers have been telling their kids this for millennia. You're going to go and live in Olam Haba, honey. And that's the real world. But what I'm adding here is a little bit more of the ability to see that really is something behind this we can all get part of. It's not just a kid's thing. It's not just a thing we tell kids and mommies and daddies and bubbies say. It's a really profound truth that energy came down to matter, and matter is going to go up into energy, and we're going to exist in eternity. And knowing that can change how I live my life now. Otherwise, I mean, forget it. I'm not just talking about abstract things. It has to make a difference that I can access eternity now, and I can bring more of that into my life, like I said with the 8. That the 8 comes down to the umbilical cord, and I can internalize it, and I can somehow connect to the higher level of who I am. I would really like that at various points in this talk that I'll shut up and we just kind of digest what's going on here. I'm trying to be a mouthpiece for a certain level, I think, of consciousness that's being born on the planet. That different religions talk about, but that most people don't know the Jewish version. And since I've been learning Jewish stuff for 35 or 38 years only, because only after I graduated college, I didn't have any real Jewish education beforehand. So I came in as a 21-year-old adult, in 20 years now. Yeah, I was an adult. And I came in and I asked questions. Actually, I came in through Shlomo. Nobody else could have got me at the time. And Shlomo was a very amazing teacher. First he sang, and I loved singing. My soul sings. I loved to sing. Those one-line songs that he would sing were perfect for me. And also the stories that he told were really deep. They had a message, a soul message. Because I felt that nobody ever told me who I was. And I felt that his stories had that message. And sometimes in the Baal Shem Tov stories that he told, and that I heard afterwards also, of 2 people, he was marrying two kids, 2 orphans, and he would tell them why they had to grow up where they grew up, and now that they were finally coming together, in the past lives that both of them had, it just was so joyous for them to know that the sadness that they had grown up with, the difficulties that they had, the sense of isolation and aloneness, it was all part of a larger picture, and that now they were coming together. And it was not only joy down here, it was joy in heaven. And those stories moved me, and they still do. I'm an easy fall guy for those stories. Shlomo himself said, if you believe them, you're a fool, but if you're not, you're wicked. So I decided to be a fool anyway.
Can you tell one of us?
Huh?
Can you tell
I
one?
just did, more or less.
I don't know,
Married, and the Baal Shem Tov reveals that I bless you that at your wedding, that the great tzaddikim, the beautiful teachers that are around you, around all of us, should reveal to you more and more of the incredible story of your soul together with your wife's soul, and why it took as long as it did, and why it was so difficult. And now that you've met, the incredible joy that you can both have, and the meaning that it will give to your life.
Amen.
So all of us here, all of us, I feel it with my wife and my kids and my grandchildren. What an amazing thing. Yes, go.
Rabbi, so the last part of what you said is a good segue for asking about wisdom and other traditions. You mentioned there's an energetic consciousness shift taking place at a global level, and you're here as a mouthpiece of a sort of the Jewish version of that. What are your thoughts with respect to gaining spiritual wisdom and knowledge from other systems, other religious traditions, other meditative paths? And I'm not talking about violating halacha to do that. I'm just talking about having a certain openness and frequency, if you will. Can you speak to that, both from the mystical part and maybe the a little bit of a normative side there in terms of...
Well, it depends on who you are. If you feel that you need to learn, read books that are out there about various different systems, do it. I mean, I really believe that there is this deeper level of Jewish teachings. They're not as easy to access. Rabbi Kaplan, for instance, was one who really basically changed Judaica back in the 80s. In his short 11-year writing career, and why? Because he translated texts that nobody else had ever translated. Back in the 50s and 60s, you'd ask a rabbi if there's such a thing as reincarnation. The answer generally would be no, for one of two reasons. One is you can't know that. I have to keep that secret from you. And two, I've never read anything about it myself. I'm a rabbi, and yet I didn't. Rav Saadia Gaon says there's no reincarnation, so why should it be otherwise? Well, the Ari and the Ramchal and the Ramak and the Zohar itself are like all of... There's a reason, there's a historical reason why Saadia Gaon said no, because of where he lived and the milieu that he lived in. And there's hints that he also knew, but that he just couldn't reveal. So the preponderant opinion within the Jewish teachings that there is such a thing as reincarnation. It's very interesting how it works. But of course, now nobody can say, or nobody in his right mind would say there's no reincarnation, because we have Indian teachings, we have all kinds of things. Why should we hide it anymore? It's a very important way of understanding. And then again, there's details and details. Of course, I've read and I learn and I love to learn about these things, and I try and make at least the basic principles available to people of these things.
Did you get to the point where you were saying that what is the Jewish way of looking at the eventual infinity, getting back to infinity? I mean, each religion, you said, thinks about it differently, and us as Jews, we don't think about it as like we're going to become nothingness.
Right.
It's another...
It's eternal individual existence in eternity, and it never will be boring. There'll be new horizons always opening up at higher and higher levels.
It's not really nothingness, it's just something you can't vaguely understand.
It's not nothingness at all. It's a wonderful vision of a very big world by a very, very big God, who has much, much more to reveal than we could ever understand.
Because as Jews, do we not believe, like, before the Big Bang, that the matter or whatever it was nothingness either? It wasn't nothingness, it was something.
Very good point. Only in very few books is this mentioned. Is that what's called what David Bohm, one of Einstein's main students, talks about is that and it's exactly according to Jewish teachings, is that, as it's said 800 years ago by one of the great mystical teachers, all that exists now existed in the infinite in a state of nothingness, in a state of non-existence. It's a profound, beautiful idea. It's much deeper than that God made something out of nothing, and that nothing is an absolute nothing. It's no-thingness. It was at a higher level. And of course,